Chris Benoit, murderer or framed puppet. So growing up, I was a huge wrestling fan. I would watch WWF, the Attitude Era, WCW, ECW. I was a huge fan. I would buy the merchandise, the toys. I would go to live events. I would stay in Friday night to watch Raw. I loved it. I idolized a lot of these wrestlers. The Immortal Hulk Hogan, the Ultimate Warrior, The Undertaker, Bret the Hitman Hart. And then the more recent ones like Triple H, Batista, John Cena, Kane, Rey Mysterio, all of them. But what I've come to discover is that the WWF or the WWE is run by a master mason, Vince McMahon. I think there's so many ritual murders that take place. I think Vince McMahon is a sick human being. I really do. Some of the suspicious deaths, Owen Hart's death, China's death. Remember in my last video, I did a video about Prince? Well, China died on the same day as Prince. And Prince was known to be very feminine. China was known to be very masculine. She won the Intercontinental Championship, the first woman to do so. And she died at the age of 45. Ritual equals 45. Luke Harper, who just recently died, there's so many numbers that connect in his death with a ritual. I can do a video on that. Ultimate Warrior gave a speech in the ring about how every man speaks his last breath and then the day after he's dead. And there's so many, but I'm going to focus on Chris Benoit. So his full name was Christopher Michael Benoit. He was a Canadian professional wrestler. He had a 22-year career. He worked for numerous promotions, including WCW, WWF, WWE, ECW. Notice all these wrestling corporations are abbreviations of 3 words. World Wrestling Entertainment, World Wrestling Federation, World Championship Wrestling, Extreme Championship Wrestling, All Elite Wrestling. It's because they're all owned by the Masons who love the number 3. Pretty much anything that has those abbreviations. CNN, another example, BBC, ITV, WHO, like the World Health Organization, FBI, CIA. It's all run and owned by the Masons and the Jesuits, and it's clear as day. Anyway, Chris Benoit was born May the 21st, 1967 in Montreal, Canada. He died June the 24th, 2007 in Fayetteville, Georgia, United States. He made his wrestling debut on November the 22nd, 1985. He had 3 children, David Benoit, Daniel Benoit, and Megan Benoit. Supposedly, he murdered Daniel Benoit when he was 7 years old. His spouse was Nancy Benoit. Again, supposedly he murdered her, but I don't believe that was the case. I believe that they were all ritually sacrificed, which I'll discuss. So his full name was Christopher Michael Benoit. That equals 393 in reverse ordinal, as does 130 Green Meadow Lane. And this is where Benoit, Nancy, and Daniel were found at this address. 57 is a significant number. I'm learning that the moon and total solar eclipses have big connections to ritual murders and ritual sacrifices, and here's a really good example. So the moon ranges 57 degrees in the sky. Moon equals 57 in English ordinal. Chris Benoit's death was 57 weeks before the next total solar eclipse. He was working for Vince McMahon in WWF, and Vince McMahon equals 57, who I think is a master mason. Look at the WW, okay? Turn that sideways, it's 33. It's what they do. Just like Wonder Woman, and you can do it with M, putting 2 M's together. Let's think of Mickey Mouse and Marilyn Monroe. I can give you a list of about 100 of how they do that. It's they just got to sneak it in. He won his one and only WWF World title in New York City. New York City equals 57. Chris, he was known as Chris Benoit, equals 57 in English ordinal. His wife's name was Nancy, which equals 57 in English ordinal. Chris Benoit's death date had a full numerology of 57. So he died on the 24th of June, 2007. That was a Sunday. You add all those numbers up together, it gets you 57, which is not a coincidence at all. Chris Benoit equals 122, as you can see here. And 122 minutes is 2 hours and 2 minutes. That's significant because there's so many connections with 22 and Benoit. And also total solar eclipse equals 202. Again, 0 has no value in gematria, so that's like 22. Chris Benoit made his professional debut on the 22nd of November. He wrestled for a span of 22 years. He was billed as weighing 220 pounds. He won a total of 22 championships over his 22-year career. He was found dead in June, and June equals 22, and dead equals 22. And as I've just said, he was found dead in June. Benoit died on June the 24th, and that is an important date in history as it is marked as the founding of the Great Lodge of England in 1717 under a full moon. And this is a building or a lodge that was set up by the Masons for the Masons, the people who were running the show with the Jesuit order. So him dying on June the 24th, I was like, okay, I recognize that date, and that's what it was. The year Benoit died, 2007, marked the lodge's 290th birthday. So, as I've said, Benoit's death was exactly 290 years after it was established. Look here, it was established June 24th, 1717. Benoit died June 24th, 2007. It's 290 years. Benoit equals 29 in full reduction. 0 has no value. Benoit was born in 1967. This is the number of sacrifice. Sacrifice equals 67. He and his family were sacrificed in a blood sacrifice, which equals 67. Chris Benoit, his wrestling name, equals 67. Christopher, it's called Christopher Michael Benoit. Christopher equals 67 and 76, as does blood sacrifice. He did not murder his wife and son. He was murdered, as was his wife and son. Will we ever find out who did it? I don't know, but he was a member of the Jesuit order or the Masons. Don't know exactly who did it. Total solar eclipse equals 67, and I've already discussed how this whole ritual was connected to the total solar eclipse. He was known as the Crippler. Okay, one of his gimmick names, the Crippler. He won his one and only WWF title by using the Crippler crossface on Triple H, and it was reported he performed the same move on his son Daniel before his death. So supposedly, he performed the Crippler crossface on his 7-year-old son before he died. There's no way that happened. You've got this guy who they said was losing his mind. He had the mind of an 8-year-old. He had dementia because he was going around giving people flying headbutts, this, that, and the other. There's no way he did this. There's no way. So, headline, Benoit placed a Bible next to bodies, then hanged himself. So I found a lot of connections with the number 3. I've told you, 333, the Masons adore that number. Between the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus Christ was 3 days. It was reported that over a 3-day period, Benoit had killed his wife Nancy and son Daniel before committing suicide. Nancy died on a Friday, Daniel on a Saturday, and Benoit on Sunday. Is that strange? Isn't that strange? So these 3 people dead over a 3-day period, supposedly all down to Chris Benoit. Sunday equals 33 in reverse full reduction, the day Benoit died. Jesus Christ died at the age of 33. Again, this could be the Society of Jesus behind this. Toxicology reports showed that Benoit and his wife Nancy had 3 different drugs in their system. Sure they did. He won his only WWF World title in a triple threat match versus Triple H, and Shawn Michaels taking the title from Triple H. And Triple H, it makes me think of Triple Homicide, but wins it in a triple threat match like 3. And Triple H, I'm telling you, he's risen to the top of WWE. He's basically going to take over from Vince. He dated Chyna, who I believe was ritually sacrificed at the age of 45. He dated her. I think Chyna was a man as well. And I think his current wife, Stephanie McMahon, is also a man. I think there's so many celebrities at the top. I think Venus, Serena Williams, I think they're men. And people will laugh. It's funny that Jennifer Aniston once got voted Man of the Year, GQ Man of the Year, supposedly because she dealt so well and heroically with the breakup of Brad Pitt, who supposedly had an affair on her with, what's her name? Angelina Jolie. It's all storylines. So anyway, Triple H, sick human being, and they portray him as this really nice, intelligent guy. He won his one and only WWF World title in New York. New York equals 33. Kurt Angle, arguably one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, said in a 2017 interview that he has got to be in the top 3 of all time, referring to Benoit. Why the top 3? Why not the top 5 or the top 10 or the top 20? It had to be the top 3. Kurt Angle's been caught up in a lot of scandals with drug abuse, etc. And I'm sure when he gets sacrificed, they'll say that he had a drug overdose. Benoit was close friends with Dean Malenko and Eddie Guerrero. These were WWF stars, especially Eddie Guerrero, and they were known as the Three Amigos. WWE cancelled the scheduled 3-hour-long Raw show on June the 25th and replaced the broadcast version with a 3-hour tribute to Benoit's life and career. It's no surprise that Raw's biggest show is 3 hours in length. I told you, Vince McMahon is a master mason. He's obsessed with the number 3. And it's no surprise that he loves the Miz Mezzanine, okay, MM, like 33. And I think, I think the Miz has 33 million followers on Instagram. I'll have to check that, but again, it's just a disgrace. Miz and Maurice, MM, the kids all have names that begin with M. You see the M and the W, see it as 3 when you turn it sideways. Chris Benoit died at the age of 40, and supposedly his wife and son died due to asphyxia, a condition arising when the body is deprived of oxygen, causing unconscious or death suffocation. Well, that equals 40, the age of his death. Benoit and his family died in 2007. I say his family, his wife and his youngest son, who was 7. That can be seen as 27. I've discussed that number. It's the ritual number. He supposedly called his son Daniel. Daniel equals 27. Side note, he and his best friend Eddie Guerrero won their first WWF World Championships on the same night during WrestleMania 20. Eddie Guerrero was also born in 1967 and he died at the age of 38. Remember, 67 is the sacrifice number. He dies at the age of 38. 30 is the number of death. Murder equals 38. I think he was murdered. They say he died of a heart attack from steroid abuse and his heart inflamed and all of this nonsense that they say. Pretty much they say all these superstars die of drug overdose, substance abuse, or suicide. No, they are getting murdered. Death equals 38. RIP equals 38. Here's Eddie here, Eddie Guerrero and Benoit, WrestleMania 20, lifting up their titles. I think here they're aware of the sacrifice that is going to take place later in their lives. I do believe now, the more I decode this, that they're aware of what's going to happen. And they sell the soul to the devil, as you call it, for fame, fortune, money, wealth. And a lot of them, like Hulk Hogan, the immortal one, the Undertaker, the immortal one. That's what they call them. They believe that they're going to live forever, even when they die. And the fact that I'm talking about them now kind of demonstrates that. So the Undertaker, I want to discuss this guy because he's known as maybe the most iconic wrestler ever. He's had a super long career, has been super successful. Call him the Undertaker, the dead man. I call him Mr. 201. Told you 201, massive Jesuit number. Jesuit order equals 201. And the Undertaker equals 201. So here's some foreshadowing here, and you can check it out yourself. So did the Undertaker predict Benoit's double murder-suicide in 2007 in the WWF video game? Well, in that video game, and you can watch this on YouTube, the Undertaker said the following to Benoit in what was his last appearance on the WWF video game. If you insist on making this mistake, your grieving family will have no one to blame but you when the inevitable occurs. What's he talking about, the inevitable? The ritual sacrifice of him and his wife and his son? I'm telling you, these wrestlers at the top, they know what's going on. And then you see them in the Twitter, on Instagram, saying, oh, this guy was an amazing guy. We hit the road together. One of the greatest wrestlers to ever lace boots, blah, blah, blah. And it makes me sick if they all know what's going on. And then this one, SmackDown vs. Raw Series 2006, it was a video game, and The Undertaker predicts Eddie Guerrero's death. I think he predicted it or foreshadowed it. This game, it was called WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2006, but it was released November the 11th, 2005. It featured a story where Eddie Guerrero stole The Undertaker's urn and used it to control the dead man. There was a similar story in real life not real life, in WWE with CM Punk and The Undertaker. Trust Eddie to lie, cheat, and steal, right? That was his gimmick. Lie, cheat, and steal. Again, just super racist, towards Mexicans. WWE is so racist, and then they have all these good causes. It makes me sick. It just makes me sick. The whole company makes me physically sick. The angle would culminate in a buried alive match where Undertaker chokeslammed Latino Heat into a casket and closed the lid. Unfortunately, Guerrero was found dead in his hotel room on the 13th of November, 2 days after the game was released. The commentator, Taz, says, well, look, it looks like ashes to ashes for Latino Heat. Coincidence? I think not. So you've got characters in WWE like Brock Lesnar, the Beast Incarnate, Austin 316. There's so many religious connections. There's so many, it's beyond a joke. And Vince McMahon's the owner. And I think he is, like I said, a disgraceful human being. It makes me physically sick. I used to love wrestling. I can't stand it now. So many rituals that take place. So there you have it. Chris Benoit, murderer or framed puppet? For me, framed puppet.